All right, pre-AP, grab out your carbon outline. Have a highlighter, have a pen, something to write with. Let's begin. All right, so this is about chemistry. So there are two types of chemistry. There is organic chemistry, and then there is inorganic chemistry. We are mainly going to be dealing with the organic chemistry. So please highlight organic chemistry. It's the branch of science dealing with the element carbon and its many properties. So this one deals with molecules with carbon. Please also highlight it's associated with living things. So it deals with carbon and it deals with living things. You are made of many molecules that are made of carbon. We're going to learn about those whenever we build our models of the molecules of life. You're made of carbohydrates, you're made of proteins, you're made of lipids, you're made of nucleic acids. So please highlight that you have 30% of your dry weight, your biomass, is carbon and its organic molecules. I have to ask, where's the other 70%, guys? Water. So 30% of you is carbon. The other 70% is water. So you're mostly water. So if you ever get on the scale and you're mad, just be like, ugh, that water. Alright, let's highlight that carbon makes organic molecules. There are the following: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Those are the molecules we're going to build. And we need to also highlight that the original source is carbon dioxide, and we'll look at the carbon cycle in just a second. Inorganic, remember sometimes it means inside. In this instance, it means not. This is not organic. It deals with, let's highlight, most compounds not containing carbon. So not carbon. We don't need that carbon. Now there are a few carbon compounds that fall under inorganic chemistry. They are the following. So highlight their methane gas and carbon dioxide. They do contain carbon, but in the chemistry world, they do not consider them to be organic. Why? Because methane gas is not in living things. They don't make up you. You're not made of methane gas. You expel CO2, but you're not made of CO2. That's why we don't consider it. So real quick, please tell me, from looking at this box, what's the atomic number of carbon?
12.
And then what's the mass number? 12. So remember, if we had P, E, and N, how many protons do I have?
6.
How many electrons?
6.
Neutrons?
6.
So unfortunately, we got all the same number.
Uh-oh.
Alright, so the carbon cycle. This is where the original carbon comes from, CO2. Plants take in the CO2 into their leaves and perform photosynthesis so that they may make food for themselves. The food is called glucose. It is a carbohydrate. We, the animals, end up eating the plants. Eventually, those organisms die, and there are decomposers like bacteria and fungi that break down that dead decaying matter. Same thing in the fishy pond. Carbon gets transferred into the water. The fish die, they decompose. Through cellular respiration, also, one of the products, what do we breathe out? CO2, carbon dioxide. So we admit it back into the air. We also have a really bad problem of burning coal and fossil fuels and emitting more CO2 into the air than we need to. Therefore, that's where the acid precipitation came from. Alright, so electron shell. Please go ahead and draw this. So this is the first level. it only has 2 electrons. So this first shell is full. So please don't count those 2. This is the shell we are concerned about. This is the valence electron shell, that layer. And it has 1, 2, 3, 4 valence electrons. What is the happy number that all elements want? 8. It can make 4 bonds. Carbon is kind of like that person that has 4 best friends. Like, my best friend's Becky, but like, my best friend's Rachel, though. Like, we're best friends. But then, like, my other best friend, okay, like, her name is Shelly. But then, like, my like, really best friend, like, her name's Peggy. So, but, like, they're all my best friends. But, like, I have 4 of them. And, like, they're my best friends. Carbon has 4 best friends. He can bond with 1, 2, 3, 4 things. Because he has 4 empty slots. He has 4 places on that valence shell that he can bond with, gain 4 more electrons, and he can finally be happy. So let's highlight that. Carbon's E configuration. Please highlight that it's versatile in 4 directions because it has 4 unpaired electrons. Please highlight that those 4 unpaired electrons allow carbon to act like an intersection that builds organic molecules. So I'm going to draw an intersection. An intersection in real life is where 2 roads meet each other. This would be Highway 431. It runs up and down, north to south. This road is Highway 75. Over here you have Walgreens. Over here you have a bank. Over here's Burger King. And then over here is Wilkes Tire and Battery. Alright, so this is an intersection. In the middle, right here, would be a red light. That way people don't run into the intersection and get in an accident. In organic molecules, though, what's in the middle of your intersection? It's carbon. It can attach with 1, 2, 3, 4 molecules. So if you want to draw that, you can. It'll be on the video for you to draw. So if you want to draw it, you can pause the video, draw it, and then resume the video. But we are moving on. Alright, so again, bonding in 4 different directions, just like an intersection. So in this one, this is CH4. This is methane gas, but it's one of those inorganic molecules. Alright, and then bonding. We're just going to draw these on a separate piece of paper. Alright, so carbon can have 3 types of bonds. This is under Roman numeral 2. It's the letter C. 3 types bonds. Please highlight that it can have a single bond. So please highlight this. You can just write this on your outline. I just put this on a separate page for me because it's hard to do it on that slide. You can't see, it's too many words. So single bond, this is a single bond. These lines between the letters represent a bond. That means that you are sharing an electron. These are covalent bonds. So let's think real quick. Find the word covalent. Is covalent, is that a strong or a weak bond? Strong. It is strong. Also, carbon can have, like we've seen in functional groups, they have a double bond. That means that they are sharing, lines represent electrons. They are sharing 2 electrons. Triple bond, These are rare, but they do occur. They occur between the carbons. 3 electrons they're sharing. So just to show you, they have the capability, they have versatility. That is their job. They can bond with a lot of stuff, and they are covalent. Remember, that is sharing ease, sharing is caring, and it is strong. Very important. Let's think about that paper clamp. We could not shake. We couldn't shake it loose. It's a strong bond. Hydrocarbons. This is a hydrocarbon. Let's highlight what that means. It is molecules containing mostly carbon and hydrogen. We also need to highlight that these are energy sources. And I have you some examples. So let's highlight these examples too. They're fossil fuels, like coal, oils, and fats. You're going to build this hydrocarbon molecule. This is, in this picture, this is a lipid. Lipid is a fancy word for fat, so if you want to put that out beside there, hey, this is a lipid. And this is what we're going to draw. This is a hydrocarbon. So somewhere out beside hydrocarbon, you're going to want to see that. It's just a long chain of C's with a bunch of H's attached to it. They're very long. Yes, you will draw this in just a momento. Alright, please also highlight that the more hydrogen atoms in the molecule, the more energy there is. So if you look at that picture of the lipid, there's a lot of hydrogens. The more hydrogen, the more energy stored. If you think about, whenever you eat fatty food, or if you think about cows, whenever you eat steak, all of that fat and that marbling, they stored that fat just in case their food supply ran out. They could pull upon those fat molecules because they could get a lot of energy out of them. Please also highlight, hydrocarbons are important parts of cell membranes. We're going to draw a part of your cell membrane. We're going to go over this really well whenever we go over the parts of the cell membrane, but I kind of want you to know what this is. So if you will draw this somewhere out to the side, this is what your cell membrane is made of. Please highlight, these are phospholipids. So this is a phospholipid. Phospholipids kind of look like jellyfish. They have a hydrophilic head and a hydrophobic tail. Now we learned in acids and bases that philic means I love it. Phobic means I hate it. This is how I remember for phospholipids between that head and that tail. I draw a kitty cat face. My little cousin has a cat. She's obsessed with her cat. She knows that her kitty cat loves to drink water, so the head is hydrophilic. But if that kitty cat gets anywhere near the water with its feet, it completely goes bonkers. So, hydrophilic head, kitty cats like to drink water. Their face is on their head. Hydrophobic, you're afraid of it, you hate it. Kitty cat feet don't want to get near the water. Please also highlight that very last letter. All hydrocarbons are extremely hydrophobic. And we're going to do that with a lab soon. Remember, being phobic means you are afraid of water. So again, phospholipids. If you want to make sure, highlight, these are in the cell membrane. This is what makes up your cell membrane. You have 2 layers of these beside each other. These hydrophilic heads are going to be facing toward the outside of the cell and on the inside of the cell. Why? They love water. The hydrophobic tails are going to be facing inward to each other. Why? Because they both hate water. Now, we'll talk about this more whenever we get to cell membranes, but I kind of wanted to give you a preview. But remember, that's next unit. So next we're going to talk about functional groups. So phospholipids, this is what it looks like. It's got a phosphate head, a fatty acid tail. That head, again, hydrophilic, loves water. Tails, hydrophobic, does not like water. And this is what your cell membrane looks like. There are 2 layers of those phospholipids. Your phospholipids right in here. They look like little bitty jellyfish. And we'll talk about what the rest of these things are that make up the cell membrane next unit. So don't panic. Alright, so functional groups. Please highlight that these are the sites of the most organic molecules, chemical reactions, or properties. And also highlight they have a function to do. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at functional groups now. Now, functional groups, this will tell us what type of molecule we're looking at. So, on the back of your carbon properties notes, you have this table. And what we'll do is we'll highlight what you need to know on your notes. Then we'll flip over to this paper, and we're going to name the functional group and maybe write a few properties about it to make sure we got it. So the first group that we're going to look at is hydroxyls. So please highlight that it has an OH out beside it. And we need to also highlight that these molecules act as an alcohol and they are polar. Remember, polar means it has a positive and a negative end. Also highlight they end in OL. If you'll flip over to your chart on the back, this first one is called a hydroxyl. Why? Please highlight or circle. It has an OH group. And remember, it says that it's polar. Make yourself a note over in properties. These are alcohols, like rubbing alcohol. And then whenever we have our DNA extraction lab, we're going to use methylene alcohol, or methanol, to extract your DNA out of your cheek cells. And remember, please put end. They usually end in OL. Alright, back to your notes. The next one is called carbonyls, or some people call these carbonyls. So let's highlight what makes something a carbonyl group or a carbonyl group. Please highlight they have 1 double bonded oxygen. 1 double bonded oxygen. And your 2 examples are going to be aldehydes and ketones. Aldehydes are like formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is a preserving liquid, kind of like the little animals in the jars in my cabinet in my room. Those jars are filled with formaldehyde. Embalming fluid for individuals whenever they pass away. They embalm someone's body to stop the decaying process in formaldehyde. Also, the third thing, the animals that we're going to dissect in lab this year, they are preserved in formaldehyde. And then our second one are ketones. So if you want to, go Google diabetic ketoacidosis. Ketones are made in your body whenever your blood sugar gets too high. And it's very hard for your pancreas and your kidneys to break down ketones. And they can actually be very harmful for you. So flip your paper back over to this good old chart. This next one is called a carbonyl. Why? Please highlight. It has 1 on your chart. 1 double bonded oxygen, not 2, 1. And then put you some examples out beside there. So a good for example, just to remember, we'll just put 1. 1 example. Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde. It's an aldehyde. Alright, make sure you have this. Now go ahead, flip back over to your notes. I'm going to scroll up to our next few. Alright, our next one that we're going to talk about, it sounds very close to carbonyl, but it's a carboxyl. Please highlight it has 2 oxygens. One is double bonded, the other is single bonded. And then the note under that, underline that they act like an acid because they lose those hydrogens. Remember, if you are an acid, you have a pH of less than 7. And why is that? Because you give away hydrogens, hydrogen ions. Alright, so under carbonyl, this is a carboxyl. Please highlight why it's a carboxyl. Here's our double bonded oxygen. And then there's our single bonded oxygen. That single bonded oxygen most likely is going to stick to a hydrogen. And it's going to let that hydrogen go at some point. So please also highlight over here, it's acidic. It acts like an acid. Alright, flip back over to your notes. We're almost done. The next group is going to be called an amine group. Just highlight that it has nitrogen in it. Just like on this chart, this is an amine group. Why is that? It has a nitrogen. So the ones that you're probably most likely, if you're going to get any of these confused, is going to be that carbonyl group and that carboxyl group. The rest of them are pretty self-explanatory. And then to go to our last 2, go ahead on your notes on the front. Let's just highlight what they are. A sulfur hydryl, just highlight, it contains sulfur. Why do we need to know about these? Highlight, they make disulfide bridges in protein formation. You are made of protein, your muscles made of protein. In your body, in your cells, you make protein, which make your traits, like your eye color, your hair color, everything about you. So you need that sulfur. And then phosphate, please highlight, contains phosphorus. Why do we need to know about this? Please also highlight, below phosphate, involved in energy transfers, such as associated with ATP. We're going to talk about ATP several times this year. It is cellular energy, so if you want to put out beside ATP, cellular energy, it's very important. You use ATP to go through a lot of processes in cells. We're going to even learn how you make ATP through the process of cellular respiration. So then, we're done highlighting. Go ahead. Flip over to the back, to the chart that you see here, and then highlight and write down what the names are. Again, this is a phosphate. Why? It's got a phosphorus in it. Our last one is a sulfahydryl. Why is it that? It's got sulfur in it. Self-explanatory on the last 3. Alright, so this is carbon. The properties of carbon, what make carbon so special. We're going to relate these in these functional groups to the molecules of life. So, make sure if you need to rewind the video, watch it again, do so. Tomorrow we're going to have a data set and the synthesis question on this. So make sure you know your stuff. I'll see you tomorrow.